The ground never really settles in West Texas. Even when everything looks quiet, even when the deals are signed and the ink is dry, the pressure is still there, building deep underground. That's where Landman Season 3 begins. Not with an explosion, but with the unmistakable feeling that one is coming. Power has shifted, lines have been crossed, and the people who thought they'd won are about to learn that in the oil business, victory is never permanent. It's borrowed time. Season 3, Episode 1 opens in the aftermath of a decision that changed everything. MTech Oil is still standing, but it's not the same company it was just weeks ago. Under Cammy Miller's leadership, the operation has grown sharper, faster, and far more aggressive. She didn't just step into Monty Miller's shadow, she reshaped it. Deals that once stalled in endless meetings now move forward with brutal efficiency. Investors are watching closely. Competitors are nervous. And inside MTech, there's a quiet tension no balance sheet can explain. Too many familiar faces are gone, too much experience walked out the door with Tommy Norris. Cammy tells herself this is progress. She believes that cutting Tommy loose was necessary, that his way of doing things belonged to a different era. In her mind, MTech can only survive by evolving, by taking risks others are too afraid to touch. And on paper, it's working. Production is steady, new drilling sites are approved. The board may not fully trust her yet, but they respect her results. What Cammy refuses to fully acknowledge is the cost. The company feels colder now. Conversations stop when she walks into a room. Loyalty has been replaced by obedience, and that difference matters more than she wants to admit. While MTech pushes forward, something new is taking shape just beyond its reach. CTT oil exploration and cattle is no longer an idea or a quiet LLC filing. It's real. Tommy Norris didn't disappear after his firing. He went silent, and silence in this industry is never harmless. Tommy is building from the ground up, leaning on instinct, experience, and the people who believed in him enough to walk away from security. He's not chasing MTech. He's carving his own path, one rooted in independence and family. But every lease he studies, every well he scouts, overlaps with the same land MTech depends on. Whether he wants a war or not, he's standing in the middle of one. Tommy is different now. There's less hesitation in him, but more weight. For the first time, every risk he takes lands directly on his family's shoulders. Cooper's talent isn't hidden anymore. It's front and center, driving decisions that could make CTT a serious player or paint a target on their backs. Tommy knows the danger. He's lived it. The difference is that now he can't pretend he's protecting everyone by playing someone else's game. If this company fails, it fails because of his choices. And if it succeeds, it changes the balance of power across West Texas. Back at MTech, Cammy feels the shift even if she doesn't name it. Reports start crossing her desk that feel uncomfortably familiar. Land inquiries, quiet offers, personnel rumors. She doesn't say Tommy's name out loud, but she doesn't have to. She knows exactly who's behind it. What unsettles her isn't fear, it's recognition. Tommy is doing exactly what she would have done in his position, building something that can't be controlled, something that demands attention. Season 3 doesn't begin with confrontation. It begins with alignment. Two companies moving in parallel, driven by different philosophies, heading toward the same finite resources. Family versus structure. Loyalty versus scale. Vision versus endurance. Episode 1 makes one thing painfully clear. The oil empire isn't just expanding, it's splitting. And once that happens, there's no going back. Nothing explodes right away. That's the mistake people make when they think conflict announces itself loudly. In West Texas oil, pressure builds quietly, buried under contracts, land rights, and conversations that sound polite but mean everything. Episode 1 deepens that unease by showing how both empires begin to feel the strain of what they've started. At MTech, Cammy pushes forward with absolute confidence, but cracks begin to show in the foundation she inherited. Monty built his empire on relationships as much as production, and many of those relationships were held together by Tommy Norris. Without him, Cammy finds herself negotiating with people who don't fully trust her yet. They respect her authority, but respect isn't loyalty. Vendors push back harder. County officials move slower. Deals that used to close with a handshake now demand layers of legal reassurance. Cammy tells herself this is just resistance to change, the old guard dragging their feet. But deep down, she knows something more fragile has been disrupted. The board watches her closely. They don't challenge her openly, but their questions sharpen. Every risk she takes now carries more weight because there's no Tommy to absorb the blame if things go wrong. Cammy thrives under pressure, yet even she can't ignore the growing sense that MTech is operating without a safety net. Nate's absence is felt in ways that numbers can't explain. Leadership meetings feel thinner, decision-making is faster, but not always wiser. And Cammy begins to realize that power, once consolidated, becomes isolated. Meanwhile, CTT, oil exploration and cattle, moves like a startup with something to prove and nothing to lose. Tommy keeps the operation lean, refusing unnecessary hires and expensive optics. Every dollar matters. Every decision is personal. The people who followed him didn't do it for titles or bonuses. They did it because they trust him. That trust becomes CTT's greatest strength and its greatest vulnerability. One bad call could cost everyone everything. Financing looms like a shadow. Galino's money opens doors that would otherwise stay locked, but it also changes the rules of the game. Tommy understands leverage, but this isn't the kind he's comfortable with. There's an unspoken cost attached to every favor, every introduction, every expedited permit. Cooper sees it too, even if he doesn't say it outright. His numbers are sharp, his instincts strong, but he's still learning how dangerous visibility can be. Talent attracts opportunity, but it also attracts predators. Family dynamics tighten under the pressure. Tommy wants to protect Cooper and TL, but protection in this world often looks like exposure. Bringing family into the business strengthens the company's core, yet it also raises the stakes. Failure is no longer theoretical. It's personal. Every risk echoes at the dinner table. Every late night carries consequences beyond profit and loss. As the episode progresses, subtle overlaps emerge. Both companies begin circling the same land, eyeing the same underdeveloped leases. It's not intentional at first. It's inevitable. West Texas isn't infinite, and opportunity clusters where oil is richest. When early reports surface, Cammy recognizes the patterns immediately. She doesn't react emotionally. She reacts strategically. Tommy, on the other hand, feels the collision before he sees it. He knows this land, he knows who else wants it. And he knows exactly what it will mean when MTech realizes CTT isn't just surviving, it's competing. Section 2 establishes the truth neither side wants to admit yet. This isn't about revenge, it's about gravity. Two forces expanding in the same space can't avoid each other forever. The oil beneath the ground doesn't care who owns it. It responds to pressure, and that pressure is rising. By the midpoint of the episode, the illusion of separation starts to collapse. MTech and CTT may be operating under different banners, but the industry around them treats power like a shared language. News travels fast in West Texas, not through press releases, but through quiet conversations, delayed callbacks, and favors that suddenly feel conditional. What was once background noise sharpens into signal. Cammy senses it first in the tone of meetings. Executives who once nodded along now ask pointed questions about future projections and land security. They're polite, but their curiosity is strategic. Someone is offering alternatives. Someone is creating leverage. Cammy doesn't need a report to tell her who. She knows Tommy well enough to recognize his fingerprints. He's not making noise. He's positioning. And that unsettles her more than open defiance ever could. She doubles down. Cammy accelerates timelines, pushing MTech into aggressive expansion mode. New leases are fast-tracked. Risk thresholds are adjusted. On the surface, it looks like confidence. Underneath, it's urgency. She understands that dominance in oil isn't declared, it's demonstrated. Whoever drills first, produces first, and locks down infrastructure controls the narrative. Cammy is determined that MTech will not look like the slower, older empire, while a breakaway company writes a new story. At CTT, Tommy feels the same tightening coil, but he responds differently. He slows certain decisions, choosing precision over speed. He's seen what happens when ambition outruns preparation. The irony isn't lost on him. The traits that once frustrated Cammy are now the ones keeping CTT grounded. Yet even with caution, momentum builds. Their early numbers are promising. Survey data confirms what Tommy suspected. There's real potential here. Enough to attract attention. enough to make them impossible to ignore. That attention brings complications. Calls start coming in from players Tommy didn't expect to hear from so soon. Not offers, not threats, just curiosity. Curiosity in this business is never neutral. Cooper notices the shift and pushes back, questioning whether they're expanding visibility too fast. Tommy listens, but he also knows there's no version of success that stays hidden forever. The moment CTT proved viable, it stopped being invisible. Cammy and Tommy never share a scene in this section, but their presence is felt in every decision the other makes. Each move becomes a response, even when neither will admit it. MTech secures land that sits uncomfortably close to CTT's interests. CTT counters by negotiating access routes that could complicate MTech's logistics. Nothing illegal, nothing overt, just pressure applied in strategic places. Emotion creeps in despite their best efforts. Cammy remembers the years Tommy steadied the ship when Monty's health faltered, when crises piled up faster than solutions. She wonders, briefly, if cutting him loose removed more than just resistance. Tommy, in quieter moments, remembers believing in MTech as something larger than profit. He doesn't regret leaving, but he mourns what it cost. Family remains the fault line for both. Cammy carries Monty's legacy like armor, but it's heavy. Every success feels like it has to justify her right to lead. Tommy watches Cooper step deeper into the business and feels pride tangled with fear. The same industry that rewards brilliance also punishes it. And now Cooper's brilliance is no longer shielded. By the end of Section 3, the episode makes one thing unmistakably clear. The separation Cammy and Tommy believed they achieved was temporary. Their worlds are converging again, not because of unfinished feelings, but because power attracts power. In West Texas Oil, you don't choose your rivals, you create them. And both of them are starting to realize that the next phase won't be defined by growth, but by collision. By now, momentum has a price tag, and both sides are starting to feel it. Growth no longer feels clean or exciting, it feels heavy. Every step forward carries a consequence that can't be undone. And Episode 1 leans into that weight without rushing toward payoff. At MTech, Cammy's authority is unquestioned, but her isolation deepens. The company is expanding on paper, yet internally, it feels thinner. Too many decisions funnel back to her desk. Too many calls demand her voice, her approval, her signature. What once felt like control now feels like exposure. If something fails, there's no buffer left. The blame lands squarely on her. She pushes through it anyway, driven by the belief that hesitation would be worse than risk. In this business, slowing down is how you lose ground, but momentum creates blind spots. Small warning signs are dismissed in favor of larger wins. A delayed permit, a supplier who suddenly renegotiates terms, a county official who seems less cooperative than before. None of it is catastrophic on its own, but together they form a pattern Cammy can't fully ignore. Someone is influencing the terrain around her. Someone is making the environment less friendly. And for the first time, she considers that firing Tommy didn't remove uncertainty. It relocated it. At CTT, success arrives faster than expected, and with it comes pressure Tommy didn't anticipate. Loyalty holds the team together, but loyalty can't replace infrastructure. Systems strain under increased demand. Decisions that once involved a handful of people now affect dozens. Tommy finds himself awake at night running scenarios he used to solve for someone else's company. The difference now is brutal. There's no higher authority to appeal to. No safety net. Every call he makes becomes part of the company's DNA. Galino's presence looms larger in this section. Not through threats, but through reminders. Introductions come with expectations. Opportunities arrive preloaded with obligation. Tommy understands exactly how this works, and he hates how effective it is. Independence was the point of starting CTT, yet he can feel the invisible strings tightening. Cooper notices it too and pushes back harder now, questioning whether some doors should remain closed. Father and son don't argue, but tension creeps in. They want the same outcome, but they're beginning to disagree on the cost. Emotionally, both Cammy and Tommy are haunted by what they've lost. Cammy carries the quiet grief of leadership without partnership. She won the throne, but the room feels emptier than she expected. Tommy feels the absence of stability. He chose freedom, but freedom doesn't come with guarantees. It comes with risk that never sleeps. As the episode moves toward its final stretch, the industry itself seems to respond. Rumors circulate faster. Competitors adjust their strategies. Everyone senses that something fundamental has shifted in the West Texas oil landscape. Two power centers are emerging where once there was one, and ecosystems don't like imbalance. They correct for it, often violently. Section 4 makes it clear that this isn't a battle of good versus bad or right versus wrong. It's a battle of momentum. Both companies are moving too fast to stop, yet not fast enough to escape each other's gravity. The choices made here won't show consequences immediately, but they've already locked in the future. And that future is narrowing. The episode doesn't end with an explosion. It ends with a signal. A warning so subtle that only the people who know what to listen for will recognize it. By the time the credits roll, Landman Season 3, Episode 1 has done its job. It hasn't answered questions. It's made them unavoidable. The first tremor comes through information. A shared lease boundary flagged in separate reports. A piece of land neither company believed was contested suddenly becomes very much in play. It's small enough to dismiss, but significant enough to matter. For Cammy, it confirms what she's been denying since the beginning. Tommy isn't rebuilding in isolation. He's building in her shadow. For Tommy, it's the moment the abstract idea of competition becomes real. This isn't theoretical anymore. It's physical, it's land, steel, and money buried in the same dirt. Cammy responds with restraint, which for her is unusual. She doesn't strike first. She gathers data, calls in legal, reviews timelines, but beneath that control is something new. Not fear, but respect. She knows what Tommy is capable of when he's backed into a corner. She also knows what she herself is capable of when challenged. The realization is unsettling. This won't be a clean fight. It won't be quick. And it won't leave either of them untouched. Tommy feels the tremor in a different way. He sees it in Cooper's focus sharpening, in the way conversations turn from possibility to defense. The company is still young, still fragile. One misstep could cost them everything. And yet, backing down now would mean conceding ground he can't afford to lose. Not just financially, but symbolically. CTT exists because he refused to live under someone else's control. Letting MTech dictate terms would hollow that choice. The episode closes on parallel moments. Cammy standing alone, reviewing maps and projections, fully aware that her greatest challenge isn't external pressure, but the mirror being held up to her leadership. Tommy watching his family work, knowing he's pulled them into something that may demand more than he can protect them from. Neither of them speaks. They don't need to. The future is already speaking for them. Landman, Season 3, Episode 1, ends where all good wars begin. Not with violence, but with inevitability. Two empires expanding into the same space. Two leaders convinced they're doing what must be done. The oil beneath the ground doesn't care who deserves it. It responds to pressure. And now, the pressure is finally shifting.